Peace and greetings, peace and greetings. This is 360 Collective, and this is the Race to November. This is edition number 7, volume 7. We are live and back at it again. I'm thrilled to be with you. We are just 1 week out of this all-important election. Election day is November 5th. We're here to talk about all of the current events that have transpired over the past week or so. We were live last week, so we want to update and discuss and reflect upon everything that has happened since the last time we were together. It is my great pleasure, though, to introduce a special guest that we have with us today, our good brother from Denver, Mr. Paul Lane. He has a fantastic radio show out there in Denver on Saturday mornings. He's also done lots of important work in organizations promoting diversity. He's an educator and a writer. Paul is welcome. It's wonderful to have you with us, and welcome to the show, my good friend.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Tell us a little bit, Paul, about the show that you host out there and some of the things that you do on the show.
Very good. So I've been hosting the show for it's been 5 years. Last July. Originally, I started out as a guest on the show. I'm an author. I'm the author of the book, The Caregiver's Handbook, a self-help love story. After being on the show a few times, the old host decided to leave the show, and they asked me if I would host it. So what the show is, it's called the Weekend Boost, and what we do is I feature authors mostly, but I really like it because Henry Archuleta, the station manager, gives me a lot of freedom to put people of note, people of interest, community leaders. I mean, I put a lot of mystics, I put a lot of new age people on. I put just a great variety of guests on, and so it just gives me the opportunity to reach out, to educate, to open the eyes. So many Americans have been asleep and are just waking up, and I'm really proud to be a part of that awakening, and I really do my best to share as much as I can about the truth and about issues that are relevant to the people that listen to the show.
Right on, Paul. Tell us, before we jump into the current events, tell us and our audience how they can get in contact with you or follow you. Give us all your social media information so that our friends and followers can tune into you.
Absolutely. So you can, if you're trying to find me, I'm at paullane.net. If you go to Facebook, you can look for Boost Plus on Facebook. KUHS Denver.com or Henry Archuleta. If you go on there, you'll find the radio station. There's a lot of links. The archive shows are on my website, though, on my page. I also do frequency healing. I'm retired, but I kind of keep myself busy doing all kinds of cool things, helping people. But really reaching out to me at info@paullane.net is probably the best way to reach me. Again, my website is paullane.net.
All right. That sounds good, Paul. We're thrilled that you are here with us, and we're going to have a really fantastic conversation. Unfortunately, there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, and a lot of it is really terrible, but that's what we do at 360 Collective. We're an educator group. We're an educator collective, consultants, and we make it our priority to talk about the tough issues and to try to bring our viewers into the conversation as well. So if you're listening, we hope that you comment. We hope that you react. We will acknowledge your comments and reactions, and we will build upon them. And we also want to know what your insights are so that we can learn from you, as we hope this is a fulfilling, enlightening conversation for you out there listening. We want to be enlightened and learn from you as well. So with that said, I have my esteemed brothers, Timothy Hampton, and back from the depths, Grant Brooks, the unknown scholar, in the house. How are you guys doing this evening?
I'm great. I'm thrilled to be here as always. Extremely happy to see my missing brother, my strange brother, Grant Brooks. Good to see you, man. Happy you're here.
Good to be back. It's been a while, but I'm back at it. So glad to be back tonight, and good. Looking for some good discourse. So let's get to it.
All right.
Well, I'd also like to extend a special welcome to our guest. Thank you very much, sir, for coming on and sharing this experience with us. I hope it's enlightening for all of us.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for your invite. I really appreciate it.
All right. So the first topic, brothers, is just a quick update on the election, and I'm going to leave this open to anyone that wants to jump in and react. So, as you guys, I'm sure already know, the election is really too close to call. Harris has a narrow lead in the popular vote, but when you look at the swing states that she really needs to carry in order to win the election, the races are too close to call. She's leading in a couple, and they're tied in Nevada, and then there are several others where Trump is leading. But by leading, I'm just talking about a margin of error, like 1 to 2 points in each case. So the race is really anybody's to win right now. It's a lot closer than it should be. I'm sure we all can agree on that. But I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the state of things now? Here's an electoral map. You can see the swing states there are in like a beige color, and you can see the electoral count for each of those states: Nevada with 6, Arizona with 11, and so on and so forth. And Harris needs to pick up 44 of those electoral votes. Trump needs to pick up 51 of those. So curious, what are you guys thinking? How are you guys feeling about the state of things right now?
I, for one, am terrified, a little bit disappointed, a little bit disgusted. I feel there's no way this race should be this close. However, as a man raised in the United States, familiar with the United States society, country, etiquette, policy, worldview, I'm not surprised that this race is being called so closely right now. The United States is a white supremacist nation. It's got foundations in white supremacy. Bigotry and racism and hate go back a long, long way. And those things are carrying Trump and his cohorts right now. They really have no other platform. And I think that's why the race is so close.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's I didn't see this coming. I thought for sure, considering the fact that Trump really never did get off the campaign trail. If you think about it, he never stopped holding rallies. And that's the reason why it's so close now. He never let his foot off the gas. He's kept the momentum up over the years that he wasn't in office. So some of his base never even claimed that President Biden was president in the first place. So I think those folks were already there. But even with that going on, he picked up new people along the way. And I think there's some people who historically have voted Democrat are now on the fence, or who have now flipped to vote Republican. So we're seeing a lot of shift and change, I think, because of the fact of his tactic of never leaving out of the news. He's never left out of your eyesight. And I think that was a skillful tactic of his to not disappear. He could have disappeared or lost. I'm just going to go into seclusion and you'll never hear from me for a while. I'll come back around maybe 3 years, 2 years, and then start campaigning, but he never left. And so I think that could be one of the reasons why it's so close right now.
What do you think, Paul? What are your thoughts on the state of things? And what do you think about the assertion that one of the reasons he has a lead is because he's really never stopped campaigning? I never thought of it that way, Grant. That
was a pretty good point. I guess I have a theory. When you think back in history, Joseph Goebbels was the propaganda ministry for Hitler, and his policy was repeat a lie often enough and it becomes the truth. And we have a whole nation, we have a half a nation of people that are convinced of the 30,000 plus lies that he told 4 years in office. And it just continues to this day. But, there's some big variables that have happened, especially of late. That big rally they had yesterday, I believe the 28th of October, Sunday. And, the speaker that they had was not very friendly to people of color, in particular Puerto Ricans and Latinos. He pretty much threw everybody under the bus. And, the comments that were made, I think they're going to be very, very impactful, especially things like what we heard from Stephen Miller about America only being for Americans. There were so many things that were said and done yesterday that, I think they're going to make a major impact. The other thing I believe really is that females are going to make all the difference in the world. And in the end, the female vote is going to be the ultimate factor.
So let's jump right into that, because one of the things that we had planned to discuss was, in fact, that rally. So, Tim, I'm hoping that you can build upon what Paul has sort of led us into. I know that you had spotlighted some of Stephen Miller's comments and others as well. So why don't we jump right into that since we're there now?
Well, Tony Hinchcliffe, the so-called comedian, he did in fact call the island of Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. He then spotted a brother in the audience, a black man, and made a watermelon joke. Which means that was extemporaneous. It wasn't even planned. And these are all at his rally. Grant Cardone likened Harris's advisors to pimp handlers, which is really just a disgusting, despicable, reprehensible thing to say. Stephen Miller, America is for America and Americans only. Looted and stolen jobs, looting and stealing, and, these types of images. Ryan Gerdusky actually told the man he hopes that his pager doesn't blow up on CNN, that
was last night.
Yeah. Are you kidding me right now? Tucker Carlson called Kamala a Samoan Malaysian, as if those things are bad. I think they're just brown. So for him and his cohorts, those things are bad. And this is what I've been saying. This is their platform. This was their rally. This is their message. These are their rallying cries. You're brown, you're bad, we're white, we're better. We're going to save the country from you brown people, and all these brown people are coming in, and all these terrible, terrible racist tropes and all this innuendo and wild conjecture and BS that they spin every day at the top of their voices. I'm a cynic. I really do think it's resonating with a large segment of the United States.
And so, Tim, I want to show, this is one of the images that you had selected to put in. So I'm going to show it now. I want to warn those that may be listening that the images we're about to show are incredibly bigoted and racist, and that is precisely the point. But if racist tropes and images from yesteryear trigger you, now's the time to look away for the next couple minutes. But it's important that we show these because Tim, I believe, wants to do the knowledge about why some of what was said at this rally were so incredibly racist and bigoted. So I want to show the images, and then Tim, I know you wanted to talk over, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. These are the Jim Crow era stereotypes about Black people in watermelon that the speaker was referencing. These are age-old stereotypes in American society about Black men in particular, and watermelon, and Black people and watermelon. And I just want to illustrate, they say their slogan is "Make America Great Again." This is the again that they're talking about, the Jim Crow era. We were on last week. He talked about bringing back a law from 1789 so he could do the mass deportations. I'm talking about Trump now. These individuals are using the age-old cancer of racism and bigotry and white supremacy to try to sway the country into voting for them. I didn't watch the rally, but where is the news about their platform? Where is the news about their ideas? Where's the news about how they want to help the economy, help working families, do these types of things? No, Trump is suggesting that Abraham Lincoln should have let the South keep a little bit of slavery. This resonates with a lot of people in this country, more than I think we care to acknowledge. We're saying to ourselves, oh, no way, this is terrible. Nobody's buying this. Everybody hates this. This is bad. But I beg to differ. Trump himself was silent for a good long while. And then he came out and I don't know anything about it. I don't know the guy. I didn't hear the comments. I didn't hear the remarks, which only speaks to the alternate reality that a lot of Republicans live in. You know, Trump was at the rally. He lives in the news. There's no way he didn't see or hear what this man said, but that's what he maintains. And that works for his followers. Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
And now we have him apologizing or denying that he's a Nazi. And I mean, if you put a side by side with the 1930s film of the Nazis standing in the Madison Square Garden, it was just almost a complete reflection of what we saw yesterday. So, I mean, who's surprised?
Yeah. So along those lines, I want us to get into that because Tim, you raised a great point that I want us to arrive back to in just a few minutes here, which is about the way that the media portrays and discusses Trump. So to start that conversation off, first off, I want to open up any dialogue about the town hall that Kamala Harris participated in with Anderson Cooper from CNN. It was supposed to be a debate. Trump refused to debate Kamala Harris a second time after being boat raced by Kamala Harris in the first debate. And so in order to avoid more embarrassment, he decided that he did not want to go on CNN and have a conversation with Kamala Harris. So I'm interested what you guys thought of the town hall, of the conversation itself. What were your initial reactions, Paul? In fact, what if you watched, Paul? I'd love to get your thoughts, and then I'll jump into Amari, who is just joining us.
Honestly, I didn't see the whole thing, but I was so impressed that Kamala Harris was willing to go into that hostile environment. And, you know, Anderson Cooper, everything that I've seen with, you know, anytime he's been interviewing anyone that's from the left, it just seems like it's a hostile interview. But I think she's done very well with all of, you know, everyone that she's gone to. She's handled them all very well. Overall, I've been impressed.
Okay. Dukes, what about you? Did you get a chance to check in on this on the town hall?
Let's be honest. We've seen everything we need to see. We heard everything we need to hear. There's no need to watch anymore. If we can hold the election today. We could have held the election last week, and the outcome's going to pretty much be the same no matter what. There's no more. Everybody know. I think everybody who's going to vote know who they're voting for. It's just that if this date match up for them to be free to go vote, everybody knows who they're voting for. But some of this is just a, you know, it's just a waste of time. I think that could be a waste of money. People placing here for the ads or whatever. Everybody I'm pretty sure everybody know who's they're voting for. There's nothing that this man can do or say that's going to bring a negative light on what he's doing. If anything else, it might bring more people to the fold to vote for him. Something does happen. Because this is the foundation what America is and has always been. And foundation what America has always been. And now it's to the forefront. There's no need to hide.
Okay. Along the lines, Paul, of what you mentioned about Anderson Cooper, I want to play a clip because a couple days after Kamala Harris went on to CNN and participated in this town hall, Charlemagne the God was on Anderson Cooper's late night show, and they were talking about the fact that Kamala Harris agreed with General Miley that in fact Trump was a fascist. And so the conversation begins with Anderson Cooper asking Charlemagne about that statement and about whether Kamala Harris ought to make more statements like that about Trump. So that's setting up the conversation. I want to listen to about 3 minutes, and then I have a particular point that I want to make, and then I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Trump, he, you know, for whatever you think about him, if you like him, if you hate him, he is certainly who he is. He's shown us who he is every single day.
Yeah, which is a fascist. And it's crazy because you still don't have news networks having that conversation. Like when somebody says, when somebody questions Kamala Harris's blackness or is he a DEI hire, y'all will have roundtable discussions about that, asking that question. How come you're not having roundtable discussions asking, is Donald Trump a fascist? Actually not even asking it, stating it. I mean, when you look at the things that he's talking about doing, jailing journalists, jailing his political opponents, turning the military on American citizens. The guy said he wanted to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. How come that is not the topic of discussion on networks like CNN every day?
But do you think that, I mean, you were raising this with Kamala Harris about her own authenticity, about her own willingness to just, say things that aren't crafted. Do you think she needs to do more of that? Trump's going to go. Trump's going to go. Apparently, Trump's going on. Is going to tape a thing with Joe Rogan. Do you think she should do that?
I think that she should keep calling Donald Trump a fascist. And I think that Americans need to keep looking at the rhetoric of Donald Trump, because I don't know why we're even thinking about electing somebody who's talking about putting people in camps. I don't know why why we want to elect somebody who's talking about mass deportation. I don't know why we're having this conversation about somebody who wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. Aren't we supposed to be a patriotic country? Whenever somebody like Colin Kaepernick takes a knee in this country, everybody talks about, oh, that's so unpatriotic. But a guy can say he wants to terminate the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election and nobody cares.
And
like even me bringing it up now, you brought it back to Kamala and Joe Rogan. Anderson?
Yeah.
Who gives a damn?
Well, I mean, I think you give a damn who's elected president, and
yeah,
I'm
especially if that president is a fascist. That's talking about putting people in camps. That's talking about, once again, terminating the Constitution to overthrow the results of an election. That's talking about, jailing his political opponents. Yeah. Like, that rhetoric doesn't scare people?
Well, we talk about this every single. This is what
I don't think
I've been talking about this every night.
I don't think y'all have enough conversations about it. I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about, Donald Trump being a fascist. Well, am I wrong, Angela?
Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that.
I'm not. Look, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Okay.
But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black, like
I've seen that. I've seen those roundtable discussions a lot. Now that's bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody is.
Oh, I'm not saying you. I said the network.
He said the network.
I don't think anyone I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, "Is she black?"
Y'all have never had
we have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something, but.
Yeah.
I will just speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like are surrogates who come out and just spout talking points that they don't even believe, and those are people I tried to eliminate from having ever on the air again.
I think no network has honest conversations about Donald Trump. Nobody's had honest conversations about Donald Trump since 2016. I saw last night they were talking about, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president, but it's always a double standard with Trump, whether it's with Hillary, whether it's, against Biden, now with Kamala. We talk about him being a threat to democracy, but we don't treat him like one.
Okay, so the point that I want to make very quickly, and then I want to pass it to the group, is that I found it completely foul the way that Anderson Cooper addressed Charlemagne the God, because as many buffoons as he's had on the show who make up lies, who cite completely made up bullshit in the name of Trump and his candidacy, Anderson Cooper sits up and, I'd like to fact check that's statistically inaccurate. I mean, no, you just call it bullshit. You just call the guy a fascist. And he calls Charlemagne, that's bullshit. But you've had dozens of guests, if not more than that, in the past 3 to 4 months, and you said nothing like that. You've not confronted any of these fools in the way that you confront Charlemagne of all people. So I think that I'm curious to know what you guys think about this point, but then also the larger conversation that they had.
I'm just amazed that Charlemagne's made it to that platform. But I mean, he's there. I mean, he's been sort of flip-flopping around on Kamala Harris himself, but that doesn't excuse Anderson's tone and his. I don't think he would have said it to anybody else, but because it was Charlemagne. Perhaps because he's a black man, that he felt he can talk to him that kind of way. I think that was very disrespectful for him. I've never heard him use that type of language to anybody on any show. And all of a sudden it's just Charlamagne. I can talk to him any type of way. And so, yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, he didn't have to take it there. And what Charlamagne said was true. They've been doing more, credential investigating and ethnic investigating and anything else. They have not focused enough on her policies. They've been trying to catch her stumbling, fumbling, and actually back to that town hall meeting, they actually attacked Kamala afterwards. They didn't really think she did a good job on the town hall. They said she stuttered step. They focused more on her things she did wrong than she did right. So I'm really wondering where CNN is going. They've been heavily Democratic over the years I've ever seen. I've never seen them attack any Democratic candidate as long as I've been on the earth. So it's just interesting that it's a black woman now running, and now all of a sudden, well, we don't know where we stand. Is this Fox News or is it CNN? So I definitely feel like there's some issues here with the way he's presenting himself towards Charlamagne for sure.
You know, when I was a kid, my mom told me, you're going to have to work twice as hard to get half the credit. And it seems like that's always been the way for people of color in this country. And, when it comes to a woman, you got to multiply that by 2. I think that, it was pretty masterful the way he glazed over everything Charlamagne said. He didn't listen to a single context, a bit of context. It just seemed like when he had Charlamagne on there, it was just more to fill space and to make himself feel good, because he truly did not validate or really listen to anything that was said to him. And I think that's just ultimate proof that all news is biased, and the media's source of information, but it's not all true.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head, Paul. I mean, in this case, there's not just a double standard. There seems to be a triple or quadruple standard, where it's Trump and Biden, where Biden is arguably unfit to serve because of his age, but Trump rambles incoherently at rallies and even on live mics, and no one has that conversation at all, right? So there's one standard. There's one. So now we're at 2, one for Trump and one for Biden. And then there's Kamala Harris and Trump, where, to your point, Grant, her performance in a town hall is critiqued, and yet Trump doesn't even come to the town hall, won't even debate in the first place, can barely put 2 coherent sentences together, and has no policy outside of rounding people up and tariffs. And she goes over policy after policy after policy. I mean, she litigates every one of her policies, agree with it or not. She litigates every one of her policies clearly and articulately. And Trump can't even tell you what a tariff is, right? So before we move on, I don't want to move ahead without giving my brothers a chance to add on or anything. Tim, Grant, anything? Amari, anything you guys want to add?
Let me just add this. Is that I know we're trying to compare. We're looking at how hard they have to work. We must understand, when we're dealing with white supremacy, white people get the chance to be half as good, right? So it's not so much African Americans or black and brown people or women being twice as good, because that gives white people off the hook from being great. These people could be half as great and still get a chance to achieve what these things that they're doing. So I'm saying is that we can tell that this man is not up to par, but he has the opportunity to win this election. Half as good, even, you know what I'm saying? And so even at her ability to be just as great as she is, it's still not good enough. But none of that matters. I think that sometimes we go oversimplify a lot of this and just realize that this is the foundation of America, and for the first time in a long time, is rearing its ugly head. And we can
so prolifically, right?
So we can sit back and try to figure out what's going on. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is what America wants. America wants this. So it has always been this. So this is pretty much what it's going to get. Is once
I think Trump is not a threat to democracy the way the Ku Klux Klan is not considered a terrorist group. Trump is not a threat to democracy the way the Proud Boys and all these white nationalist organizations are not considered threats to the United States and democracy and the Constitution, the way Steve Bannon is not considered a threat to democracy and the Constitution. I recently saw an article where Steve Bannon has called upon his armies to do battle no matter who wins. That Trump doesn't get fact checked. He doesn't get discussed about his dementia and his incoherence, because he is what America is made of and what it's always been made of and what it's always been a fan of, which is toxic masculine, Caucasian, bigoted, racist, white supremacist, in politics. And once you are those things in the United States, you can really do no wrong. And as for people like Kamala Harris and Colin Kaepernick and all these people who have to, be at their utmost excellent, above reproach in any and all things at all times, just to be criticized relentlessly. It's really obvious what we're dealing with in the United States and who the people are that are perpetuating these things.
So with that said, I am curious to know what you guys think about, and I want to explore a little bit more the point that you made, Tim, earlier, that was about the comments that were made at the Trump rally the other day. Mm-hmm. In particular, he made some comments, a comedian made comments about Puerto Rico, an island of garbage, I believe is what you said it was, if I'm not mistaken. That was the comment, right, Tim?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So with that said, with that in mind, here are some statistics about Puerto Rican people living in swing states. These are the same states that we showed you before. And in fact, we have an overlay here. So here's that electoral map we looked at before, and the Puerto Rican population by state right next to it. So I'm curious to know what impact, and Paul, I would love to start with you on this topic, if you like. What impact do you think those comments will have? And then also broadening the conversation a little bit to immigration. Like, tell us where you think that stands in the election, and what impact these comments you think will have on the outcome of the election.
Well, I'll tell you, in the beginning when Trump stood up and said I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and never get in trouble, I think he just got in trouble. I think that of course, we've all said it 100 times before. This is the last straw. This is the one that broke the camel's back. But I really think that it's, I can't understand the memory of the Puerto Rican people. Don't remember when he threw paper towels at them and withheld funds. I just can't get over the fact that he has that high of a Latino vote. I just can't get over it. My grandfather was a first generation American. He was born in what is now southern Colorado, and even though he was born on the same land as his father and his grandfather and his great grandfather, it was Mexico. And there's a term, I didn't cross the border crossed me. And so, when they're talking about the possibility of mass deportations, I'm telling you, this is of great concern and should be of anyone, of any Latino background, because this has far-reaching consequences. This won't be the first time they've done mass deportation. It won't be unusual if they deport people who don't even speak Spanish, that are U.S.-born citizens. So I think the whole issue of immigration really revolves around the destabilization of countries by the American government. Forgive me, but that's the truth. They're coming here to go get away from the chaos that we have created, and it's a sad state of affairs, but it's really the truth as I see it.
Yep. And to build upon one of your points there, Paul, we couldn't agree more. I mean, that's something that we discuss and post about all the time on our page, and even years ago when we first formed our group, was the reach of the U.S. empire in the Americas in particular. So couldn't agree more there. And then you mentioned also about deportation and people being rounded up and everything. So this is Thomas Homan. He's the former ICE chief under the Trump administration. And he said recently that the way that you handle illegal immigrants, the way that you solve this problem is by deporting whole families, including those in the family who may be legally born American citizens, children born in the country, or anyone connected to the family who may have legal status here in this country, deporting them along with the illegal, so-called illegal members of those families. So Grant, Amari, Tim, any thoughts, any reactions to what Paul has said or what I've shown here from Homan?
I would say that it is alarming to realize how big the Hispanic vote is, and it's going towards it's voting Republican at this very moment. So even though we heard these comments, I still don't think it's going to sway the needle for people to vote outside of, or to change their vote, because many people still believe in this American dream. And they're thinking that I have it, at least let me have it, because I voted this way, not realizing the bigger implications that's going to happen. Just as if we might talk about the uneducated white or the low income white, and realizing that they're voting against their interests, so are many Hispanic people voting against their interests also, and many white women also, right? They're voting against their interests because they're voting for what they think the ideal of what America is. And that's the beautiful thing of us voting for. You're just not realizing that idea is going to be to your detriment. So that's the problem with they're doing. But it's always, so that's just that fallacy of what America is that they're believing. It's just like the same way we saw Charlemagne attacking CNN. There's not enough attacking. Democrats still haven't learned how to fight. Even in this fight for democracy, no matter how it goes, white people who are Democrats will at least be okay, right? So no matter who wins, they'll at least be okay. It's just that it's the rest of us that it will be a problem. So like I said, I mean, I realize that as we get 7 days away, very pessimistic about. No, I think America's going to do what America does. You know what I'm saying? America's going to do what America does. And I say this. I think he wants to lose to bring up the bigger fight later on.
What do you mean by that? What do you think is the bigger fight?
So what I'm saying is that in order to really have change, there has to be a revolution. He can't win under the same guise of the old Constitution. That means he wins to fight with the original system. But if you change the system, things change.
So if I understand, what you're saying is that he continues to fight either way, and he will continue to foment this movement even if he loses.
Listen, you think at this level, this is not like a local town hall or some small village running elections. This is a presidential election. These type of faux pas don't happen just by circumstance. These are design messed up things. Okay, let's try to pull votes. You don't let this type of stuff happen, because the goal is to have another fight to start the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So if you lose, then there's a reason for the uprise. He has smart people around him, for sure, because he's still in the game.
Yeah, I mean the point about these comments don't happen by accident. I agree with you to a large extent, because even J.D. Vance said recently something like, everyone's just so offended. Why can't we just, it's a joke. We're too offended. I mean, and that's the kind of thing that appeals to a lot of Trump's base. And so even when Trump went to Detroit and called Detroit some kind of he said, if the Kamala Harris is elected, the entire country would become Detroit. And he said that in Detroit, right? So he's not trying to win votes from Detroiters. He's trying to win votes from folks outside of Detroit or in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and stuff like that. So I could see where it's not an accident. But you think that even if he loses, he'll continue going on. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, he has been. As I said earlier, he never let his foot off the gas. He's got a movement in a constituency of folks that's rallying behind him because he never disappeared. He never stopped campaigning. So he won't. I don't think he just go home and say, okay, this is my second time losing. I want to just go ahead and hang it up. I've seen Trump signs from the first election still up people's yards. They never took down. That's been there the whole time. So could you imagine him losing these people? They have faith in him. They really worship this guy to some extent. And to go back around to your point, Paul, about you're surprised about the Latino supporting Trump. Unfortunately, Latinos have been roped in due to the issue on abortion a lot of times because due to religious beliefs.
Yep.
At least those folks I've talked to, that's the one thing they stand on, is that the fact they can't get over that one piece of the rhetoric that comes out about who should you vote for when and Republicans have mastered swindling the Latino vote due to that one piece,
issue voters
that they get votes from behind that. That's unfortunate because you're right. Trump, the minute he gets in, he can just go ahead and say, do the mass deportation, and people are, of course, he's ran so heavily on the border being wide open, and Kamala's the border czar, and look, the border was a disaster. Those are the two things he's running on, the border and abortion, which really conflicts each other when it comes to Latino vote, because wait a minute, I don't want an abortion, but at the same time, am I really upset about the border being open? So I don't know how they're wrestling with this vote in terms of why they're voting for Donald Trump, or how they're even convincing themselves that's a good choice. But I think that Donald Trump is not going away. I think he's going to be here no matter what. He's going to go ahead and I'm sure he's going to say something about the election being tampered with some kind of a way. We'll see how it plays out. But you have people who really think that this will be his third win, if he does win. So you got some folks that are really mixed up.
Let's not dance around all the white supremacy in the Latino community either. Let's not forget that in the Latino community, they do not hesitate to support and defend white supremacist ideologies, notions, candidates, people, places, and things. I'm not saying every Latino is a white supremacist, but you have that element. You have a lot of Latinos for Trump, and it's not about his policies because he doesn't have any. It's about his white supremacist ideology and his hate for brown people, which is, another example of that alternate reality that conservatives occupy. I've said it before, I've said it 100 times. A brown person voting for Donald Trump, or a woman of any complexion voting for Donald Trump, is the tree voting for the axe because their handle is made of wood. They're convinced that this individual is on their side and is going to do things for them, and is, has all these great plans for them and people like them, and it just isn't true. And that's part and parcel of the United States ideology and the propaganda that they span and all the BS that is propagated daily.
So
dynamic.
Paul, go ahead, Paul. I was just about to bring you in, and then I also know that the reproductive rights is an important issue. So I'd love for you to jump back to that after you build on what Tim just said.
Absolutely. There's I guess I call it a basic explanation. There's a term called internalization of inferior status. And it's one of the reasons that a lot of Latino people aren't taught Spanish, because their parents are so disgraced and humiliated and made to feel like they are less than. And as they see themselves in the mirror, subconsciously, they're saying, man, this is a bad person. There's really no explanation of it, but I've seen it within people that are in my own family. I have a brother who's a Trump supporter. He was, we were raised in different parts of the city and of the state. So, he was raised Republican and I was raised Democrat. But the fact of the matter is that internalization of an inferior status really dictates your opinions and feelings towards a lot of things, even your own oppression.
That's
you did the knowledge there, Paul. You did the knowledge there. That was all right. Dukes, what you got? What are you thinking, Dukes?
No, I think that's it. I think that applies to, as Tim was saying, that applies to women, that applies to a lot. I think a lot of people go through that. Black people go through that same thing. Have that same internalization, and you're doing the same thing. Trying to identify with the master to at least go closer to to the goods that they have. So I think I agree with him 100%.
Okay. So Paul, let me bring it back to you one more time, because when we look at young voters, and this gets back to the reproductive rights piece, but zooming out for just a second, when we look at younger voters and their perception of Kamala Harris and Donald Trump on social issues, Kamala Harris leads in just about every one of the categories in this poll that comes from the Independent Center. The one that she's not leading in, that she doesn't have a favorable rating in, is immigration. And even there, she's really close to Donald Trump. Whereas in the national polls that includes all age groups, Donald Trump has a broader lead in that particular topic. But when we look just at younger voters and middle-aged voters, Kamala Harris definitely has an advantage, as this slide shows. So I'm wondering what you think about this particular phenomenon, and then also their different takes on reproductive rights.
Well, I really believe that, I've heard it again and again, that we are entering the age of the divine feminine. And even though I think a lot of people would disagree, I believe that we are primed and ready for a female leadership. I think that, the chances of compassionate leading is way, way more. I'm more optimistic having a female leader, especially, there's no area in the world where I could see Donald Trump leading or doing a better job. But, I really believe that people see the big picture. They're really starting to look at the economy. They're starting to see the benefits that are happening. They're hearing on the news that, our economy is the envy of the world. And, I believe that more and more people are waking up to the fact that this extreme right agenda is serving a few at the cost of many.
Okay. What do you think about that, Tim? I see you nodding there.
Well, I am very hopeful that people are waking up. I see it around me and in different places and in different people. I see there is, a mass awakening. There are some encouraging signs, but it's the quiet ones you got to watch.
Yeah.
It's that quiet part, that quiet group that's not saying it out loud, that might be, just burning to get to the polls and cast their vote and just keep quiet about it. I was born and raised in the United States of America, come from a family of veterans, have called myself a patriot in the past. Now that term's been redefined, but, I'm not a young man. This gray in my chin is not by accident. I've seen a few things. I know a couple of things about America, as we all do sitting here. And I am hopeful. I am hopeful to the point of burning pain in my chest that America understands what's at stake. A majority of American citizens understand what's at stake in this election and what's on the ballot. This election, in my opinion, is a referendum on white supremacy and bigotry and racism and hate. His rally at Madison Square Garden was supposed to be his closing argument.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
True. That's true. Yeah.
And what? This is what they're talking about. The purge of law enforcement's rough hour and mass deportation laws from 1789 and Jim Crow stereotypes and misogynistic comments. I heard one of these guys call Kamala Harris the original Hawk Tuah girl, and no one checked him on it. No one smacked him in his face. No one choked him out. You know, this kind of stuff is okay with a lot of people in the United States. I wanted to say this before: you never judge a book by its cover, but look at that guy, the former chief of ICE. Look at him. He has nothing but hate all over his face, and it just radiates from the picture. I don't know the man, but you look at, you know, Stephen Miller and, you know, look at that guy, man. Look at these guys. They are not nice people. I was thinking to myself, the ex-chief of ICE, shouldn't the chief of ICE be someone that has some type of compassion? Shouldn't this be a Latino person? You know what I'm saying? Somebody who really understands this issue, but you can't say that because he might be worse than this red-faced dude. You know what I mean? So white supremacy is not a skin disease.
Slap cheek.
Racism,
slap cheek. Red face cheek, right?
Red-faced cheek disease. Listen, white supremacy is not a skin disease. It's a mental malfunction. Right. You know? Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of white supremacy going on in the United States, and it's just not in the so-called white population. You got this guy Byron, the big-time Republican, the black Nazi in North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
You got NIGGAS for Trump. You got Latinos for Trump. You got people. I saw a sister online talking about Kamala Harris was installed like a toilet, and then she put on her MAGA hat. Bro, we got some real issues right now. You know, and I'm worried now. You know, I would love to be wrong. Like I said, I would love to be wrong. I keep saying that. I would love to be wrong, but I don't know that the United States is ready for this awakening. I really don't. Now, if I'm wrong, I will gladly bow down, and kiss the feet of all my critics. But I don't, and I'd be glad if that happens. Fungus and all, but I don't think I'm wrong.
Okay, so Dukes and Grant. I want to lay something on you guys. I want you guys to take the first shot at this. Along those lines, Tim, you were mentioning, like you want to believe that Trump won't be elected and it should, everything like that. And we all share that same view. However, there are a lot of people in our circle that we fraternize with on our page and that we interact with who look at a situation like what's happening in Gaza and then look at Kamala Harris's platform and the Democratic Party's platform and approach to what's happening in Gaza and say, how could I in good conscience vote for Kamala Harris when she intends to continue the genocide that is occurring there? And they say, these are other leftists, these are people who say a vote for Kamala Harris is a vote for genocide. So I'm curious, Dukes, Grant, I know we all, I'm sure, have a view on this, but I want to give you guys the first reaction to this. And so what we're looking at here is just an update on things that have happened today, in fact, and going back into yesterday. 109 people killed in an attack in northern Gaza. There are other things happening there. There have been new leaders installed in Hamas. Israel and the IDF continue to incur into Lebanon. There are still things happening there. It's just a mess, and I mean, it threatens to become an all-out war. And so others who are of the political leaning of 360 Collective will say, well, we cannot possibly vote for Kamala Harris because she wants to support this terrible tragedy and this terrible genocide. What do you guys say to that?
Well, there's a huge, I'm in Michigan. So this is home to the largest Arab American population or Arabic population outside of the Middle East. They were ready to basically abandon Biden. That was their slogan then. Now they transferred to abandon Harris. And it is strictly because of this war. They will not vote for her strictly because of how the Democrats have handled the confrontation on the Gaza Strip. Now, Trump has monopolized off this by saying he's going to end the war immediately when he gets in office. So now you've seen a whole flip a movement where they're now supporting Trump.
Did he say that?
Just off the fact of this war.
Oh,
and unfortunately, that's a large amount of people that he's going to get. And actually, by this being a swing state, that's going to hurt her because they were influential in getting Obama in office. The 2 times he was in office, because they were largely Democrats and always have been Democrats. So I'm a little worried about that. I think that the war has been handled. You can go either way, but I don't think that that's enough off this one issue to say I'm going to go ahead and vote for Donald Trump. That's just not enough. But unfortunately, these folks, family members are being killed. Family members are being affected on a daily basis, and they have actually attended some Harris rallies and have been escorted out. They're serious about it. You saw the demonstrations that were held at many campuses across the country, protesting against this war. And I think that there is work to do on her part to ensure that if she gets elected, that she is going to end it. I mean, Biden is pretty much just playing buddy with Netanyahu right now. I mean, he's pretty much letting him run the show, although he has spoken out and said he does think it needs to be done. And hopefully these last round of airstrikes in Iran would pretty much say tit for tat. All right, you got me, I got you. Let's be done with it.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to be done. So I think she has to counter what Trump is doing right now with these Arab American votes, because it's not looking good for Michigan, which is a swing state.
What do you think, Dukes?
Well, I perfectly think it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter. Once again, it looks all of it looks good, but people are really lining up to what the ideal view of what America is. Like we said, I mean, she can so I'm saying so they are talking against a plan that she has, but he has not presented a plan. You know what I'm saying? So this goes back to what Charlamagne was saying. Is like, why you guys are criticizing her for so tough on these things, but you are not asking him the same type of tough questions. So that's first. But I think where we at here, I think that I guess we could look at, for me now, from an optimistic viewpoint, how can the W happen? How can we get to 270? And what can we do make 270 happen? And then we can work on everything else later. So we have a week, right? So I think one of the good reasons I haven't Paul on now is like to get that optimism that I know that he has in the possibility of a W happening, and then maybe like having insight on how those who can mobilize, maybe have some ideas of mobilizing people. We got 1 week left. How can we mobilize people in these maybe 4 or 5 states to make sure they do go out and vote? Because now it's like the possibility is there. And it's important that, I mean, I think it's important people go out and vote, but it's like, let's get to 270 first, and then we worry about everything else after that. So we got 7 days. And where's that 270 gonna come from? If that makes sense. Like, people are already decided. So is it people who maybe wouldn't vote prior to? Is that the people who, if we call somebody up, is the person who've never voted before? Those people that I'm thinking that we probably need to try to reach. But how do we get to that 270? How can we help to get to 270 in our little enclave, in our little towns, or in the way that we can?
Yeah, just say something.
Yeah, what do you guys think? Yeah.
I just want to say that the status quo in the United States, whomever that image is for you, might be different for all of us, but the status quo in the United States and pretty much the world over, Israel, United Kingdom, Russia, all these superpowers, civilized first world countries, the status quo of the United States and the world is probably the worst manifestation of humanity that history has ever recorded. Okay? And They have spread this sickness far and wide throughout brown people, people who look like them, people who don't. And I just, like I say, we need to get to 270, but first we have to get past all of this, and I don't think people are ready to let it go. I don't think the status quo is prepared to share with the human family. I don't think they're ready to relinquish what the hold it is they have over the United States and the world, and give it to somebody who they feel innately, due to all the social constructs they've ever been experienced with, is innately inferior to them. Who can't do anything right, who, according to Mel Gibson, has the IQ of a fence post, and all these white supremacists out here who are making all this noise. Meta, Mark Zuckerberg is helping the extremists on Facebook. Elon Musk, the billionaire, is giving away $1 million a day. Had to get checked by the Justice Department. Elon Musk is anti-DEI. DEI must die, and all these kinds of things. Steve Bannon. I mean, come on, man. These people represent massive followings, massive. And I want to get us to 270. If I wasn't in Belize, I'd make phone calls all day if I thought it would help. I don't want to be the party pooper, but I just want to keep y'all well-rounded in your views and opinions.
No, I'm with you, brother Tim. But it's like, maybe for me, it's the math part about it. Maybe it's I love watching the numbers come in. I love this. So I love the math of it, right? So that's the exciting part. It's not as if she can't, right? So I have my 22 states that she will need to get to 270. The things that I don't think she's getting over 273. But 273, keep in mind, 273 also is enough that some people might fight about. It's not a landslide. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to be some, she didn't get this state, she didn't get that state. So it's going to be hell afterwards. But I think that she can get to 270. But I think if he wins, it's a landslide.
What do you think, Paul? I mean, what's your take, Paul, on the issue of Gaza and folks on the left refusing a vote for Harris because of that? Where do you land on that? What's your reaction to what's been said so far?
Well, coming from people whose land was literally taken from us, I know that firsthand. My family had been on the land that my grandfather grew up on for 5 generations. So I have a very strong attachment to the Palestinian people. From day one, I was asleep. I won't lie. I was asleep to what was going on in Israel and what had been going on. Someone introduced me to the movie Born in Gaza, and I watched it. And it was a life changer for me. I started seeing how they were being dehumanized and how it's been a systematic destruction and elimination of people, how the ethnic cleansing is true and real, the apartheid. And I mean, everything that they're denying is real. So, that for me is what I intend to do. I intend to open up as many people's eyes as I can. On my TikTok account, I have about 13,000 followers, and I try to open their eyes as many times as I can to the truth, especially when it comes to, Gaza, when it comes to AIPAC and Israel. I'm not shy, and maybe I'm risking my life. I don't know, but I'll tell you this: I make a stand, and I'm proud to make a stand. On my TikTok page, it says Free Palestine, and that's what I believe. That's what I stand for. They need to be free. They need, this is nothing more than a land theft, as far as I'm concerned, a colonial land theft, and it's a land grab, and it's at the expense of children, of babies, and so I have a lot of animosity, or a lot of feelings toward that. It's always been. I've heard it said that he gets to be lawless, and she gets to be flawless. I think that the more we can expose and tell the exploits of Donald J. Trump, the more that we can open up the eyes of more Americans. You know what? I'm sorry, but as much as they say repeat a lie often enough, I say repeat a truth often enough. My words are all I got, and that's what I'm going to do, man.
So how do you reconcile? Because I think it would be helpful for some of our viewers, because we have a lot of friends who tune in afterwards. The recordings stay up on our page and everything. So I know that there are going to be lots of people who listen to this, not only tonight, but through the next week. how do you reconcile voting for Kamala Harris, whom I'm assuming you're voting for, and also the state of things in Gaza? Like, how do you square that? Because you have the moral authority to square that in a way that I think a lot of our listeners could learn from, frankly.
Well, as far as how I'm going to vote, I want to keep that kind of to myself. But I will tell you this: I have really, I've gone back and forth with a lot of my friends and followers on TikTok about, how can you vote for this? A vote for the lesser of two evils is still a vote for evil.
Right.
And I went to bed the other night, and that kept me up all night. And when I woke up in the morning, I said, you know what? I heard her say, I will not change a thing with my policy toward Israel. I've heard, if Kamala Harris loses, it's not because people chose third party. It's because of Kamala Harris's policy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep.
Right on, Paul. I agree. I think that leftists in swing states in particular have an incredibly difficult decision to make, because on the one hand, if you vote for Kamala Harris, you're voting for a person who has said clearly they will not change a thing about what has happened or how the IDF and Israel have prosecuted their war, genocide in Gaza. And at the same time, a vote for a third party candidate in a swing state basically is a vote cast for Donald Trump. That's the reality, I think, in those states. So, like, for me, there's a fine line there. But I think what you just said is where I land, which is a leftist in a swing state can vote either for the left candidate of their choice or for Kamala Harris. And whatever they decide to do, no one can blame them for that, because it is Kamala Harris's own policy failing if they decide to vote for someone other than Kamala Harris. I'm curious. At the same time, Donald Trump pledges genocide plus. I mean,
oh man, absolutely.
Genocide plus too, right? So the idea,
so that's the problem.
They're not the same. And I hear people say all the time that they're both the same, and they're not the same. They're part of the same system, but their policies, their attitudes towards the world, towards gay people, towards women, towards black people are not the same. And so when people say that they are the same and a vote for one is just like voting for the other, to me, that's a terrible obfuscation of what in fact is the truth. So what do you think, Dukes?
But you just said that, so you guys are saying that if she loses, it's her fault, but then we don't want to criticize Trump for doing the same thing, even worse though?
But no one's talking about voting for Trump. We know that Trump is a fascist.
But regardless, but we're saying that if the L happens, it's her fault. If she loses, it's her fault. So we're criticizing her for taking a stance on something. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but he takes a stance on hurting multiple people, and we let that slide. There's no challenge. We don't say on topic on that. We don't address that. We don't fundamentally fight that against people who are saying, "Oh, I'm gonna vote for him because she hasn't voted for that." You know what I'm saying? So these people are voting this way because of this one issue. Why haven't we pulled them together, put them to the fire, and said, "Listen, I agree. I agree this, but why? Where's that debate with them?" Because the same way they go, because it's the same way we go with, huh?
That's what we're doing right now. That's what I just said.
No. I'm saying,
literally just said that.
But no. What I'm hearing is that you're saying is, what I'm hearing is you're saying is that if she loses, it's her fault. And I'm saying if she loses, it's not her fault. She loses is because people fell for the okie doke with somebody else. It's not her fault. She's presenting a better plan for everything, the best that she can, right?
Not for Gaza.
He's
Gaza. And the DNC.
The best I said the best as she can. This man has not said anything, but until recently that contradict anything he said against Gaza. Keep in mind, 4 years ago, who was he buddy up with in Israel?
Yeah, they're still friends. They're still
right?
friends.
So what makes you think he's going to take a different stance when he's in office? Of course, he's going to take the same stance that America's taking as they're taking right now.
Mm-hmm.
But because who she is, we've fallen for the same level of critique that Charlemagne was saying. Oh, we want to critique her on everything, how she dots her I's and cross her T's. But this man can get away with the lie he's going to tell to the Muslim population. He gets away with the lie he's going to tell versus, okay, you're saying you're not going to do this, but let's see what you did 4 years ago when you were in office. She's only vice president now. What did you do 8 years ago when you was in office? But nobody want to hold him to the fire to those type of things. But before she's even there, before she had any full power, we hold her to the fire. So that's one thing. Another thing, I got to the point I can care less what happens in other countries. I know I care less at this very moment because right now this country is about to go through that same thing that happened 150 years ago.
I have a question. What's worse? The fact that he is gonna lie and say, I'm gonna end the war in Israel. What's worse? The fact that he's gonna lie about it, or the fact that so many people are gonna fall for the okie doke? You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. How is it that so many people are sitting up listening to this man who, Paul, to your credit, said he told some 30,000 lies, and they still believe it? They know he lies every day. He lies every day about everything. He lied about not hearing the man's joke at a rally where he was. He lied about not knowing who the man was after the rally was over. You know what I mean? He's a pathological liar. And then you got 64,000 Muslims in Michigan who are going to be like, yes, Trump said he's going to end the war. Okie doke, hoodwink, bamboozled, flim-flammed. So who's worse?
I mean, let's look at it from this perspective of, I hear you saying, Mari, and others, but looking at it from this perspective of, if Donald Trump does get in office, or if Kamala gets in office and does not end the war, and if looking at it from this perspective of somebody pushing a button, allowing a bomb to go off to kill another individual versus some of Trump's policies that he wants to enact, but there's still due process for that. It's not as seamless as let's go do an airstrike tonight versus I want to implement these policies that I have. We still got to understand, folks, that we're not out of the woods. The Democrats still have a chance to control Congress, even if he is in office, which means wherever he wants to implement his policies are going to be combated and through Congress. So that's the sort of the leverage that we have, and we shouldn't be so frantic and so scared, even if he does get in office, because we still have that process of no matter what this man wants to do, there's still a process. Yeah, he has executive orders, he can do certain things, but largely his policies has to be filtered through the American people. So
not anymore, Grant. Because the goal, only reason why people want him elected is not because everybody believe he's see now. It's these judges. The judges is the main thing. It's the Supreme Court.
What are you talking about? The Supreme Court judges?
These federal judges. He might. So all these things, whether it be the district courts is going on, everything he's winning is because he put judges in place. He's a scapegoat. Trump's a scapegoat. These things are being in place for the future. So whatever. Right now, keep in mind, and also it's doing away with the Constitution. It's starting a new nation.
Yeah, I mean, listen. He's talking with a big stick. That man's not going to do. Everybody talks about what they're going to do until he gets there.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he has. I'm not saying he can't, but I'm not.
I don't know, G.
What'd you say?
I don't know, G.
We'll have a civil war in our hands if he decides to do
something. That's what Amari's saying. That's what Amari exactly what he's saying.
And listen, I'm fine with that too, because I think that in order for the nation has the nation has been rotten from the core from the beginning, so it's going to happen at some point. I think we're just trying to our very best to bring it along, or for this not to happen right now, because maybe we think about our kids and those type of things, but it's going to happen because it is right to its core. America is right to its core.
I don't fear what Trump will do once he gets in office or that he'll be unchecked. I fear the fact that if he does get into office, it will be the majority of American citizens who are so filled with hate and racism and bigotry that they put him back in there on his hateful, racist, bigoted platform. I already know the United States policymakers are going to run amok and try to make as much money for themselves as they can and do all the dirt that they can and get all the blowjobs that they can and all this kind of stuff. We already know that. But my thing is, what is the United States made of? What is the composition of the United States? Is it 53, 54, 55% bigot, racist, reprehensible, despicable assholes? Or is it 53, 54, 55% rational people who will sit with you and hold a conversation?
Are those people not in the Democratic Party too, or are you saying overall? Overall, you got Democrats who are going to vote for Trump just like you have Republicans who are going to vote for Kamala. I'm just saying those people may be, in fact, still the majority of the United States. They may still be the majority. And if he wins, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be gridlock in Congress and the Senate and all that, and with the judges and all this kind of stuff. But my concern is that the American people are still back.
Well, to that point, though, too, Tim, I wanted to display this, and then I want to check to see, Paul, what you may be thinking or what you might want to add. But what I put on the screen here is, to your point, Tim, about violence and about Trump getting in power and what that does to the populace of this country and how it emboldens them. I mean, it's already starting. And let's be clear, it's not really a mystery. We've been saying it for a long time, and others have been saying it too, that this election cycle, as we get closer to the election day, is going to be fraught with violence. And it's already started. This is happening in Washington and in Oregon. Ballot boxes are being burned and destroyed. Hundreds of ballots have already been ruined. And this is we're a week away. So as we lead up to election day, I have no doubt that this sort of violence will occur. And then as the results become finalized, there will be more violence, especially if Kamala Harris wins. And if Trump wins, then the violence will not only continue through January when he is inaugurated, but for the next 4 years. And it will be an ongoing cycle of violence and death and vile treatment of everybody who isn't an ignorant white man that looks just like Thomas Homan. So that's why I put this up on the screen. I thought it was worth noting that the violence that Tim was talking about is already beginning. But with that said, Paul, we've done a lot of talking, man. I want to bring you back in. What's on your mind, my friend?
It's been pretty fascinating. It's wonderful. I want to just clarify. I didn't mean anything about, if she loses, it's because of her fault. The fact is that I waited and waited for Kamala Harris to say, you know what, when I get in there, we're going to talk about it. We're going to make some serious changes. We're going to listen to the people. I was looking for her to have a speaker at the DNC. I was looking for someone from Palestine to say, we're being fucking killed. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but I didn't see that, and that just frustrated me to no end. Believe me, I do not want Donald Trump in this office, and for the record, I did not vote for Donald Trump. I think America needs it and is ready for a third party, but that's another meeting. I think that there's a lot of optimism. At their RNC, they had 5 million less viewers than they did the year before. The Trump supporters are falling like the flies. The people of color, the women are finally waking up, and I'm optimistic. I have to believe that this is going to be a victory for Kamala Harris, and I'm just keeping I'm not breathing.
Yeah, I mean, so
what did we do?
Paul, to that point, my position, I'll be very clear about it, is that I live in Illinois. The state is going to go for Kamala Harris. There's no question about that. I will probably vote my conscience because I have the privilege to do that. I'm going to vote for Cornel West. However, if I were living in Michigan or if I were living in Wisconsin or a swing state, there's no doubt that I would vote for Kamala Harris without any question whatsoever, because I've come to a place personally where I'm not going to pedestalize my vote. A vote doesn't mean that necessarily you support this person or all their policies. It is a pragmatic tool that any person who believes in social progress should understand how to use. It doesn't mean that you endorse a candidate. It doesn't mean that you are campaigning for that candidate. It doesn't mean that you stand next to that candidate. Because if I were in Michigan and voted for Kamala Harris, the next day or the minute she gets in office, I'd be protesting, as I have, against the genocide in Gaza. We'd be publishing stuff on 360 Collective's page that is critical of her policies in Gaza. We would be using our faculties and our talents as a collective to oppose the policies that Kamala Harris implements with which we disagree. So a vote for Kamala Harris doesn't mean that you support all of her policies if you're living in a swing state and you're a leftist like me. The other thing too that I've reconciled and through these conversations that I think we've all come to grips with is, like, we're already supporting genocide. If you pay taxes in this country, you are supporting genocide. Your money has already subsidized and financed the bombs that are literally in Gaza right now being prepared to drop on innocent people and children, right? Like, by virtue of living in this country, you're already participating and supporting in the genocide, whether you mean to or not. So two folks in Gaza, all of us, whether we vote for Jill Stein, Cornel West, Donald Trump, or Kamala Harris, we are all colonizers. And so I want for third-party candidates to amass 5% of the popular vote. I think that would be a stunning victory. And I want to make sure that Donald Trump gets nowhere near the White House. So I'm going to use my vote in a very pragmatic way. And I think it all does depend on where you live. So that's me personally. But I know, Amari, you had something you wanted to.
So in that, like I said, so I'm optimistic too. But like, so my thing is that for me, it's like, so how to come away with something? What can we do? Like me and Grant, we're right here in this in one of these swing states.
Mm-hmm.
Between you three, like, what advice do you guys give us if we're here, for those that are here? If you guys have any,
it's just making sure that people in your circle go out and vote for Kamala Harris. I mean, that's to me, that's in a swing state. It's just about mobilizing people at this point. I mean, I don't think that there are any new policies or new ideas that either candidate can introduce. At this point, it's just about inspiring people to actually go out and vote and making sure that happens. So, I mean, me personally, I mean, I'll carpool people. I mean, you're only 2 hours away, Dukes. I'll carpool people.
But the thing is, like so.
I'll sleep right there on the couch, Dukes. I'll sleep right there on the couch, man.
And I'm speaking and I'm speaking personally, because then it's like, it's some of that. It's like, what does that look like? Like, honestly, because like, for some people that could be a big step. Maybe I should make it personal. For me, that's a big step. So it's like, how do I get in to you know what I'm saying? Honestly, how do I get in to make what to do?
What step? What step is the big step?
I don't know. Totally lost. I don't know what Grant is and how because he's really on that side of the state. And so, like, those conversations I was saying, that he's hearing them. I mean, maybe I don't hear him as much over here because I'm on the opposite side of the state than he is, but I'm real green on this aspect of mobilizing that level. Green as Paul's shirt.
I think the major difference between the two is that Kamala might be able to be persuaded. She said in one town hall meeting, I surround myself with people who help me to make decisions. And that's one of her strengths that she talked about. Maybe if one of those people or a group of those people finally has some common sense and comes to grips with the genocide and wants to speak with her about it, she might be persuaded to change. Whereas Trump, not a chance. And as for getting out the vote, that's a tough one, man, because we are just days away. And, most people have already made up their mind. I just think getting people to the polls, I think, is going to be paramount. Just making sure people do go out and vote and, kind of vote their conscience. I think, I would I would hope that people have woken up and say, okay, enough is enough. And I think, there's a good possibility that that could happen. There's a good possibility that that could happen if good people use their voices and whatever power they have to try to help make it happen.
Yeah. And I mean,
Okay.
another thing too, Dukes, is I'm sure that there are Democratic Party organizers. There are Kamala Harris
Okay.
campaign people
That's
in
true.
the area that you could reach out to and say, listen,
That's
I can give you a half day, right? Or I can give you 10 hours between now and election day. What is
Right.
it you want me to do? Remember what we read from Nkechi Taifa? She was talking about she's been a Black liberation activist for the better part of her life, and yet she was knocking door to door for Barack Obama years ago. We read part of her autobiography.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and then we had Bunchy Creer, a Black Panther veteran. What was that, 2 weeks ago, Tim? He said he cried when Barack Obama got elected, and not because he had any misgivings about what he thought Obama could do in office, but because he grew up in an era of segregation where he wasn't, because of the color of his skin, allowed to do certain things, right? Like he literally lived through that. So I think that a lot of, I think that a lot of people who look like me, we white leftists, we tend to virtue signal a little bit too much when it comes to our vote, right? And we do. So like, we'll stand up for folks in Gaza, but what about Black people in America? Like, what about what Trump has pledged to do to Black people and gay people in America, or indigenous people in America, right? So we can take this stand with our vote and not vote for Kamala Harris because of Gaza, but in so doing, like, there are plenty of people of color and women and others who are saying, like, listen, Trump can't be our president, because then our country will collapse from inside, just like you said, Duke. So I don't know, man. I think that's the right approach for me.
No, I think I heard what my answer. Just listening to my answer, I heard the answer what I need to do. So I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it. I got it. I think that, like you said, there's people already got a movement going on. How can I tap in with my 10 hours, my 20 hours, whatever? You're right.
What do you think, Paul? What's your reaction to all this, man? Where's your heart? Where's your mind at this moment?
Man, I'm telling you, I'm just trying to, as I'm listening, I'm trying to think, what can I do? What do I got to do? And honestly, wherever I go, I'm gonna approach whoever is in that storefront, wherever I am in the grocery store, in line, wherever I go, I'm gonna ask them, who you voting for? I'm gonna tell them, hey, you know what? I want to, get the word out. This is not a play vote. This is really for our whole future. This is real. This man cannot be in office, and we got to do everything we can to keep him out. Like I said, I think that he's the last straw has been put on the camel's back, and I think this is going to break his ass, and that's my ultimate hope. I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too. I like that too. I think that being assertive enough to ask that question is important too. So I take that. I take that with myself too. Yes.
And there are a lot of people in this country. There are a lot of people in the United States who are tired of the rhetoric and the racism and the bigotry, and are ready to move beyond it. That faction does exist as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, my brothers, we are just about out of time, but I want to make sure to leave some space if anyone has something on their mind or in their heart that they want to express for the good of the group or for the good of our listeners. Now's the time, my good comrades.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about that. We're talking as if this is going to go smoothly on election day. We didn't talk much about Iran's pledging to interfere with the election. There's also been, of course, the rumor that Russia interfered with the last election.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the American people are prepared for what could possibly happen. There been talks about that there weren't just migrants coming over that southern border, that they were actually trained fighters from Iran, from China, who are in the United States now in these secret groups and secret places. They could possibly cause all type of chaos for their own countrymen. We're not even talking about folks in the United States, but we're talking about people who just hate America. How that might affect this election. So I would just say, get folks out to the poll, but be vigilant. That this is not going to go smoothly as we think it might be. We actually could be met with some type of problem that we've never seen before on a scale to the likes that we've never seen before. So we haven't even discussed that much, but I just want to throw it in there.
Hey, look, that's an offline discussion. How we all survive together, Grant. That's an offline discussion.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, that's like,
wow.
okay, Tim. That's like, okay, Tim. Like, you need to give us a little. Anyway, I won't even say it live. I'll just say we'll be hitting up Tim.
Yeah.
Hey, but also, Grant, we'll talk about that next week because we'll be live for a little while, reacting to the election. So anything that's been happening through the week or on that day, we can talk about live as the election results are starting to roll in. Same time, we'll be here. So we hope that you can make it back, Grant, for that.
We should do we should do, you know how people do we should put our state selection up before Tuesday.
Oh, right. So speaking of that, we did say we wanted to talk a little bit about local elections, and so I actually looked over what I'm voting for and did some research, and I found out a lot of interesting content. Do you want to talk about that now, Dukes?
No, I'm just talking about right now it's 6:30. It's late for me, but I'm just saying like if we our route to 270. So what states are you picking to get to 270?
Oh, I see. You mean for Kamala?
Yeah.
You want to do that when we come back next time? Like make some predictions?
Oh yeah. Let's do that. We can do that next time. No, they got to be posted before. They got to be posted before Tuesday.
Okay. So as a group, we do that, and then we put it up and go back to it as the evening unfolds.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Or same thing we did like with the when we judged the rap, the hip hop. Everybody had their own list, and then let's see who gets closer.
Try to make it fun, even though it could be the end of the world as we know it. Try to make it a little bit fun.
Yes. I told you it's the math of it too. The math
Kendrick
of it
Lamar. Kendrick Lamar.
The math of it means a lot to me too. The math is some of it is the most important thing. The math for me, that's the exciting part.
Okay.
Was it Steve Kornacki? Yeah, that's all I need.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, it was wonderful spending time with you all, Paul. Thanks for hanging in with us for all this time. Your contributions have been wonderful. We appreciate it, and we look forward to ongoing conversations and collaboration with you in the future, my good brother.
Thank you,
Paul,
man. Thank you
all.
Send
in your state. Hey, send in your states. See who's gonna win what states. Send it in.
All right.
Send us your predictions. Okay.
Yeah, send the predictions. Just send the predictions.
Okay.
Let's see who gets closest.
All right.
All right.
If we still here, Grant done took it to a whole nother level. We might not see each other.
Yeah. Right. He did. He went to a whole different level, man. He went to a whole different level. We have so much more to talk about the next time we're together.
But he was so right. I never thought about it. He right on point though. But gosh, you're right.
Man, he's not on, man. What is he talking about, man? You know what Grant's doing right now.
You think none of that's happening? I think it's a possibility. I trust no one.
Power grid, water supply, everything.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, talking about.
Hey, look, Dukes. You see what you did, right? You see what Amari's doing right now.
I believe him. I'm with him 100%. I trust nothing.
Right,
you think they're not?
All right.
The country's in shambles.
The
country is in shambles. Why not somebody come through right now? Right time to make an attack. We're not even unified on nothing.
Okay. All right. Hey, well, listen. With that,
it's a week. I didn't write that book into the plan.
All right. All right. Listen, we're gonna continue this conversation November 5th. We got to get up out of here right now, guys. We will keep going. November 5th. Come back. Join us on that special evening as we talk about the election results and watch them as they come in. Real powers, people, my good brothers.
All right, brothers.
Thanks.